Welcome to the Begin with Yes show with your host, Paul Boynton.
Hi, I'm Paul Boynton, and welcome to Begin with Yes. You know, one of the things I love about doing this brand new show is that I'm actually beginning to meet people that are on the Begin with Yes Facebook page from literally all over the world. And today we're going to be talking to someone that's been on the page. Well, I'll have to ask her how long she's been on the page, but I know that she is there almost every day participating and reading and sharing and growing and learning with the rest of us. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Christie Kern. Hi, Christie.
Hi. I'm so glad to be here, Paul.
I know. It is so exciting, isn't it? I mean, the joy and wonder of technology that we can go from being Facebook friends to now video friends and real friends is pretty exciting to me.
I feel like we're living in the Jetsons era.
No, you don't have a little plane that you can fly around, do you, that takes you to the grocery store yet, do you?
No, actually, I want the grocery store to come to me.
Okay. Well, that actually is happening in lots of places. So anyways, welcome, Christie. I'm excited to talk with you because I think you've done something kind of remarkable in that I know that you've grown up in a really small farming community in Wisconsin. And I want, if you're willing, for you to share a little bit about your growing up and your history so we can create a little bit of a sense for your sort of history, and then we can talk about all the amazing and wonderful things that you're doing now. Is that okay?
Sure.
Awesome.
Excuse me, please. So I grew up, and I'm in Racine, Wisconsin. My clinic is here in Franksville. So Racine is about 86,000 people, but Franksville, I think, is about 20,000 maybe. I don't know how many people live here. It's really small. Excuse me, please. I'm
That's
so
fine.
sorry. I went to a very conservative Christian school and church when I was young. And so, as a very young child, I was an extremely intuitive child, and I didn't quite get the gist of how to make that work because I didn't have the vocabulary for what was going on internally. So then I went to this school, and if I had actually, so all of this energy was coming at me and I could feel it, and it wasn't always comfortable, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I became this very, introverted person at school. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I was just scared of everything. And then when my family tells me that I was like the Tasmanian devil when I got home because I would just offload all this energy and I'd just be bouncing off the walls. So I spent a lot of time in the barn.
Yeah. When you say that you're intuitive, how is that different than psychic, or is there a definite dividing line between being extraordinarily intuitive and being psychic, or am I confusing matters by even asking that question?
No, I think that it's how you as a person interpret things.
Okay.
Being intuitive at that point was experiencing these energetic shifts, but not understanding what they were. So, you know how when you're in the grocery store and you're standing next to somebody, and either you want to stand next to that person because it feels good, or you're like, oh my God, I can't stand here anymore. Because this person is I don't know, freaking me out in some way.
Right,
and
okay.
So it was kind of like that. And I lived on a farm where we had people boarding their horses there. And so a lot of the people, they bring their energy with them, and they bring along whatever baggage they had, and I would experience all of it. But I didn't have an idea of what was going on because I didn't have anybody else who had that.
Okay.
And so there are some psychic aspects to it in that I can know things that people aren't necessarily going to know, and it helps me now in my acupuncture practice because I can help people by experiencing their energetic experience.
Okay.
And I can use that to help them heal.
Well, without going into too much detail, because I do want to spend most of our time talking about what you're doing now, but how would you describe your growing up as falling in the range of difficult but typical, or more difficult than typical, or how can you frame it in a way that people that don't know you, that are meeting you for the first time, will have a sense for where you've come from a sort of emotional standpoint?
Yeah, I don't know what typical is, because
Okay.
I don't have my own experience. But for me, it was emotionally very challenging. And at some point, I just shut it down. Like,
Okay.
I don't remember a lot from being a child.
Okay.
So I have to rely on these stories that my family tells me, which are not really, to my benefit.
Right. And probably not accurate. Well, there's no way of knowing whether they're accurate or not. So then, so you had this sort of challenging childhood, and how did you transition into adulthood? I mean, did you sort of begin to figure out how to manage like the strong intuitive information and senses that you were experiencing, and did it begin to all make sense to you, and then you begin to relax and feel more comfortable, or how do you make that kind of a transition?
Well, I do remember when I was 10, I had what I learned later was an astral projection.
Okay.
So I had an experience where I had been in my room crying in my closet, because I did that all the time. And angel me came. I remember looking up, and there's me as an angel telling me as a person to just do what everybody's asking me to do and follow the rules for now.
Okay.
And eventually it would be safe for me to be who I am. And, to use these gifts. I told me it was gifts. And at the time I was like, you're crazy. I don't understand who you are, but that's nuts. And so I did. Actually, at that point, I just started doing my homework the way I was supposed to. I just started acting like,
Okay.
everything's fine. It's all cool. Because how do you argue with your angel self who comes
That's true. Don't argue
right?
with the angel, right?
Don't argue with the angel self. So then, as an adult, I had I had a lot of fun, but it wasn't necessarily, in my 20s, I had a really great time, but I didn't have any direction.
Okay.
And then in my early 30s, I was at a space where I was in a really terrible place. And I had a job that was killing me. I had a relationship that was killing. Everything about it was killing me. And my friend actually kept offering me. And my experience is that when I have emotions that I don't want to feel, I just cram them deeper in my body. And I'm learning a lot of people do that.
Right.
So my back would go out. And so my friend kept offering me acupuncture, and it was like, oh, no, I'm fine. Until one day I actually couldn't walk away from her, because I couldn't walk because my back hurt so much. I went to her house, and she gave me an acupuncture treatment. And I went dancing that night, and I was like, well, isn't that powerful and wonderful? And I think I need to make some major changes in my life. So that was like this major change for me, where I was going to go to acupuncture school. I left, I moved out of the relationship that I was in. I left the job that was killing me. And actually, the acupuncture school ends up being in my hometown. So I moved back to the farm for a while and went to school.
And I know that you're on the Begin With Yes Facebook page a lot, and your story is not different than the stories that many people share and write about, that feeling of like things are not going the way they want them to go, that they feel stuck, sometimes just in a boring sort of way, and other times in a very painful way, like stuck in relationships, stuck in jobs that they hate, stuck living a life that doesn't have any meaning for them. And it's and that's sort of, when you said you didn't have a way of really talking about that or expressing it, so you just sort of held it in. One of the beautiful things that I see happening on the page is that people begin to share some of the feelings around being stuck, and to me that's sort of like the beginning of getting unstuck, when you identify how you're actually feeling. Would that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely, because you don't know. It's hard to have goals if you don't know where you're starting.
Right.
And to actually acknowledge that, hey, this isn't working in my life, and if I keep doing this, it's not going to work any better tomorrow.
I mean, do you have any insight into why we could stay in that place for as long as we do?
It's comfortable.
Yeah. It's uncomfortably comfortable, right? It's,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't necessarily feel good, but it feels familiar. Would that be?
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Yeah. It's totally
okay.
familiar. And until we get to a place where we can't take it anymore.
Okay.
One of my teachers calls it like the spiritual Mack truck.
Okay.
That hits you. And then you have to make a change. Like for me, I felt I didn't have an option. Okay. I had to change or I was going to die.
Okay.
And so then the universe provided me the change because I was like, help, I can't do this anymore. So my Mack truck showed up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went back to school and
Yep.
you started a private practice, acupuncture, right?
Yeah, I lived in Pennsylvania for a while. I got married and I moved to Pennsylvania, and then I moved back here. My mom had Parkinson's.
Okay.
So I moved back to Wisconsin, and I started my. I have a community acupuncture clinic, so I treat in groups. So I'm in my private session room right now, but I have a community clinic, which is 13 reclining chairs. So then it's a walk-in clinic. You can just come on in. But yeah, I opened my clinic, my private practice, and I found a lot of different teachers. So along my path, I started seeking out people who were going to help me develop myself to be, kind of like finding Begin with Yes, where it was I know what I know, but I need somebody who knows what I want to know. Mm-hmm. So I started looking for those answers.
It's so interesting to hear you say that, because there are so many times when I feel like, and as I've said at other times, that many times what I'm writing about are things that I need to hear myself, or so it's not like I'm writing from this place of having figured everything out. I'm writing from this place of being on the journey along with everybody else. But that sense of hearing somebody else say what on some level you already know, it's like that's when some breakthroughs happen, I think, for people sometimes. They just need that reassurance or need to hear somebody else say it. And then they go, yeah, I know, that's right, that's true, that's me. And then you begin to see, it's kind of liberating, I think, don't you? When you...
Yeah, I think it gives you permission to actually have that thought and to have that feeling. And it validates your feelings because, I was never taught to honor my feelings. I was taught to squash them down and don't ever feel angry. Don't ever feel, big girls don't cry.
Right.
All of them, right? And so when you have somebody who's willing, Paul, you're so great at being vulnerable out there and putting out there these beautiful messages that, show your authentic self, and they come from your truth and your divine self. And that's a huge vulnerability that is difficult for people to access until you're ready to, and it's a big deal. Like for me, when I found Begin with Yes, I was like, what? Begin?
and ironically, you had already sort of been beginning with yes already, I bet, right?
Right. I had made a commitment to myself to say yes to any therapy anybody asked me, as long as it was legal.
Yeah.
And so I just started exploring everything. And some of it I was like, oh, this is great. And some of it I said, no, this doesn't resonate with me. I'm not going to stick with this. But, then I actually, again, I saw, just like you said, I saw it in letters on the screen. And I was like, Begin with Yes. And I really had to sit with it and go, begin with yes. I don't know that I do. Oh, I guess I do that, and there was that validation.
I have a friend, and he's with me in the studio this morning, and I used to always think that the most powerful word in Begin with Yes was the yes, and he said to me one day, I think the most powerful word is begin, and it's like that, do something, move, begin to make something happen. It's that, sometimes I write, like, if you don't know what to do, then bake a cake or go rake leaves or just get moving. And I've kind of discovered that so many people feel like they're stuck. And as soon as you start moving, it just doesn't make sense. You can't be moving and stuck at the same time. So it doesn't matter really what you do, as long as you do something. It sort of breaks that pattern of feeling stuck. And then once you begin to move in whatever way works for you in that particular moment, then you begin to see opportunities to take those steps and take those actions and move towards directions that actually move you closer to something that's important to you.
Right, and one of those movements can actually be meditation,
Yep.
which doesn't feel like a movement, right? It's actually a stillness, but you're moving to your stillness and you're moving into your truth. And that took a long time for me to understand as well, to give myself permission to sit and be, not to be in judgment and not to be asleep, but to actually become more awake by being, with my divine self, to actually allow myself to touch that space. And so yesterday you actually posted something that said, what was it? It ended up being a line, but the first word was hustle. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, that was my life. Hustle.
Yeah, I know. That's an easy sort of, especially if you've got lots of things you want to get done, and there's a lot of stuff floating around in your head. You can get in that place of hustling all the time, and there does reach a point where the hustle isn't as productive as just slowing things down a little bit. So and I think that was part of the message, is that we don't always have to be hustling, and we don't always have to be doing 100 things at once to be making progress. And I love the fact that so many people, too, can read my post and they take from that something that's meaningful to them. And it may be really quite different. You might take something different from the post than I would take from it. And then there's so much sharing on the page. People are sort of reacting to the post, and then people are reacting to people's reactions. And there's a real sense of community. And I think it sort of feels like, oh, wow, this is like this great class of people who are like a class in a classroom, all learning together how to move forward. And there's a lot of mutual support, and people get to share how they're really feeling in a more authentic way sometimes. And so there's so much incredible energy that I get from just being a participant on the page, and it's exciting for me to hear from people like you who are finding some help in there too. Where are you at in your journey right now? I mean, have you accomplished all your goals? Are you sort of just settling into what you're doing now, and you're just going to sort of maintain, or do you have other things you want to make happen?
Oh my God. Nowhere near my goals. Oh yeah, I'm the guru sitting on the... No, I'm not there. Actually, the building of community is important to me as well. And I share Begin with Yes with a lot of people because of that community feeling. And so here in Franksville, I have a community space as well, so that it's a place where people... And we have a meetup group too, where we're inviting people who are exploring the mind-body-spirit connection to get together. So we have about, 1,100 people on that. But
wow.
Yeah, and then I have this event space. So we have meditations coming up, and we have, different, we have a mandala class tonight. So I'm not anywhere near it. I'm still growing and exploring, and all of the different aspects of intuition still expanding.
Awesome. Christie, I'm going to sort of put you on the spot, and you might not have an answer, and that's perfectly okay if you don't. But if you think of, and believe me, when you go to the Begin with Yes page, everyone's, in some ways we're all in the same place, and in other ways we're all at different places. But like when you read something and your heart goes out to somebody, and you wish you could offer some words of encouragement, if I just wanted you to just speak off the top of your head for just a minute from your heart, what might you offer people who are visiting the Begin with Yes page in terms of encouragement?
Start where you are and be compassionate with yourself. Allow yourself to understand that this is a process and it's a journey, and every step is important. You don't have to feel like you have to jump from here to the end, because all that middle stuff is so important. And the stuff that came before. I mean, there are old patterns that we want to get rid of that no longer serve us. And that's why Begin with Yes is actually important to me, because it's a page that's constantly reminding me of the movements forward and not looking backwards. So this is about forward momentum, and it's the compassion with self that's imperative, I think.
I know if you can learn how to be compassionate with and to yourself, then it becomes easier to be compassionate with others too. Christie, I told you this was going to go fast, and I can't thank you enough for being with us today and being with us every day on the Begin with Yes page. And I hope people will begin to spot your notes from time to time on the page. And thank you so much for being here. But I think even more importantly, thank you for what you're doing in Wisconsin. And what you're doing is living the life that you are here to live, and that excites me to be able to hear you tell a little bit of your story. So we'll meet again, I'm sure of that. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was wonderful. It's good to finally meet you.
I know. Isn't it amazing? Awesome. And thank you for being with us on Begin with Yes. I hope you're watching this and you're saying, I would love to talk to Paul, and it is so easy. We can help you set up your Skype and make it very possible for you to spend some time, just like Christie did, chatting with me on the Begin with Yes show. So send me a note if you're interested to paul@beginwithyes.com. And thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.